I actually have been inspired by vintage jewelry for years, and I used to go through my grandmother's jewelry collection, and I sort of, in my beadwork, like to take techniques and ideas from the past and make them current. So I really felt like there might be an opening out there to kind of share that with other people, because I know that a lot of beaders and jewelry makers also collect vintage jewelry and are inspired by past techniques. It actually appeals to all levels. You can really jump in from the beginning stages. The book has a great glossary. It breaks down some very basic techniques, but then as you get further into the book, it really shows you how to adapt those techniques to more difficult projects. And then even if you're a more seasoned jewelry maker, I think you'll find a few different tidbits that you can apply to what you're working on. The projects, again, are really based on vintage jewelry and some of the techniques that were used back then. Miriam Haskell and some of her designers, Robert DeMario, Coro, a lot of the jewelry designers that were big between the 30s all the way up through the early 80s used a lot of the techniques that inspired the projects. It's stacking and stitching and sort of working elements together in different ways. I really think that this book is going to be fun for people because it has a lot of flashbacks. It really pays homage to the older designers. There's overlays in some of the projects that sort of harken back to why this technique is reminiscent of the past, and it has lots of tidbits about jewelry history. So it's a little bit, gives you a little bit more than just a DIY book. It's going to give you a little bit of history as well. I've taught on and off in my bead store for years, and one thing that I think is imperative is that you break your directions down to a very basic level, and I think that appeals to all designers, whether they've worked with directions for years or whether they're total newbies. I really think that that buyers, that jewelry makers really have a respect for jewelry of the past, and I think they're also collectors. I think beading by nature starts with collecting, and I think a lot of us probably go to flea markets and find old jewelry, so I really think that the consumer that's going to buy this book has an appreciation for collecting as well as vintage and old goods and how to make them new and how to make them relevant in today's jewelry.